Welcome to Accountants Law Pod, where accounting professionals and law firms converge. Hosted by Linda Artisani, Sarah Prevost, and Stephen Libhart.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
Well, we're missing our sidekick, and I don't
Yeah.
want to forget to say that because we already talked about it, but now that we're recording, so we're missing Steve. But it's the beginning of the year, and it's beginning of the year, so it's January for bookkeepers, or it's
Yeah.
not our happiest season. It's probably the busiest because we get a lot of leads coming our way, and a lot of the attorneys will be looking at their
That's a happy
records.
moment. However, it's the timing in which they all
It's the
come.
timing. And
Yeah.
then a lot of times, we have clients that don't respond all year, and now they're sitting there going, I got to get my stuff ready for the tax. I got to close the year. And then they're looking at it and then they're asking questions. Why isn't it finished? And then you write
Yeah.
back, well, here's the list I've been bugging you with for the past 8 months that you haven't answered these questions, or this is what's holding us up. I'm missing statements or whatever. And then
Maybe
they
that's
kind
a topic for a future
that
endeavor.
is a topic. I
Best
don't know if
way
you'll
to
fix
work with.
people like that
Yeah.
though. I remember doing that in the very, very beginning of my career, and I a couple people just threw me a big giant box. And I
Yeah.
can remember thinking, I'll give them an organizer so next year they can put it all. I even made the labels, and all I did was shove the papers in. This is going way back,
Yeah.
right? When you had
Yeah.
paperwork.
Yeah.
And they just gave it all to me, shoved it in the front left front section. They never even
Front,
used
the
the
front section of
they
it.
didn't
Yeah.
organize it at all. And I can remember my husband saying, well, I could have told you that was going to happen. I'm like, okay, hey, thanks. Which kind
Yeah.
of leads into this topic because this week we're going to talk about tax planning for legal professionals. And we're going to give you what we think you all should be looking at for maybe implementing some change because new year,
Hmm.
how do we say, I've been working with Lori and I, or one of our employees, we're calling it New Year, New You. And we're going to start on the first, and then we're going to start on the fifth. It's really the official first day, right? But New Year, New You. So you could
Yeah.
implement some changes now because it's the beginning of the year. And if you did work on Friday, you might have to go back and fix things, but it's only one day, so it's not a big deal, you know?
Well, I mean, in the new year kind of mindset, though, you that's the good time to really kind of look at, okay, I've got the full year closed. I've got the information in front of me. Do I want to go ahead and just take a stab at writing a budget, doing small steps for stuff like
Yeah.
this? Or, maybe looking at my numbers, I'd say forecasting is probably one of the areas
Agree.
that might be the
And
smartest
goal
thing to do.
setting, which
Yeah,
we just talked to someone on our behalf for goal setting,
exactly.
setting
Yeah.
a goal for a year, three
Yeah.
years, 5 years. It's good to put it down, but it also is good to don't put it down and tuck it away and never look at it. If you want to make the changes, like we're probably going to talk about today, you want to be able to start to go down the road of looking at them and then seeing how you're doing against them. Because every year we post what we think, you and I set a goal for the
Yeah.
business. And at first we were like very much in alignment. And then last year you were like, and I'm like, oh, you're crazy. That's way too much. But then we got closer to your goal. We bypassed my goal. And I'm like, okay, well, she was right. And maybe sometimes it is good to shoot for the stars because you never know.
You
But
never know. Yeah, you just put it out there. I
it's a
think the
very
biggest
positive
thing
thing to do.
we've heard repeatedly from other coaches, other people in our profession, and I'm sure the legal profession has repeatedly heard this, is reviewing it quarterly. And
Yeah.
I feel like what is a great time right now is once we get a moment together this week, we just get on our calendars the days that we
Yep.
want those days to be. And it can be whatever day we need it to be, and set a time the hours just for reflection and review, even if it's not about, are we hitting our targets? Like you're saying, it's not
Mhm.
just about looking at the numbers and comparing and over analyzing, being honest about where we stand and then what kind of changes do we want to make. I know instinctively we've done this really well individually, just as
Mhm.
professionals. You and I have done this really
But I
well.
think too, it falls into the same thing as like everybody in January 1st, I'm
Yeah.
going to eat better. I'm going to do this and that. And then
Oh, yeah.
eat better. I'm going to
Yeah.
meditate every day. I'm going to sleep 8 hours every day. So you throw three things, three really big changes, and then they never stick. None of them because it's hard to do that. But if you can just pick one thing, we had a good friend when we decided to change our practice management tool.
Hmm.
We were changing a couple of things that year. We were looking into doing that, and we had a
Yeah.
good friend Ian over at Carbon who we were going to thinking about moving to, who said, "Don't do that now. Do
Yeah.
this one change you want to do,
Yeah.
using Ignition,
Yeah.
and do that first.
Yeah.
see how that lands, and then think about the other thing down the road, which
Yeah.
we've now come to. But that was really great advice because we fine-tuned this, then moved on to this.
And we
And
keep refining. I mean, it's
we
part of the
do.
process, right? It's part of
Yes.
the journey, I guess you could say, is the refinement. But I also feel like what's the saying that somebody I forget who says this. It's the small things. You do the small things to build. And these
Mhm.
small things build up. It's not like you're okay, I'm going to bite the whole apple and eat the whole thing in
Right.
one swoop. You're going to take the small bites to get to the big one. And when we're planning, I feel like in this profession, they're very mutual. They're
Mhm.
very similar in accounting and in legal. You are kind of maybe reviewing your entity structure, you're reviewing your pricing models, you're reviewing what are the costs that you spent? What are the trials that you tried that turned into, I tried this software, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh shoot, paid 12 months of the software. I need to change it.
Mhm. Mhm.
It didn't do me any good. Staff, retention. Maybe you had a bumpy ride last year. Maybe you
Yeah.
need to reevaluate your handbook and what works for the staff.
Because you want
There's
to
like,
keep your staff if they're good,
yeah,
because it's very expensive to switch staff.
it is. It's very
And
expensive.
it does slow the process of everything down because there's
Hmm.
a learning curve to everybody's workflow, and
Yeah.
that's definitely
And
something you want to.
taxes, the big one. Look, I think the biggest thing is looking at and meeting with that tax professional at least twice a year, just to
Hmm.
check in, but meeting with them and saying, okay, now my taxes are filed. What was the total amount I paid for federal and state for those that have state?
Hmm.
And how, what is the percentage of that?
Yeah, what's your
And
tax percentage? Because you ask
what is
people
it?
that, they don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know. I have to go and like it's simple math, but it's like I have to think
Yeah.
about it. So I can know, and then that'll help you calculate your estimated taxes, which a lot of
Exactly.
times we find clients either don't have an awareness of that and they find out at the end of the year, or they know about it, but they don't pay it because they
Yeah.
think for some reason they don't understand how it's quarterly, which there
Yeah.
was some discussion about maybe moving that to be like every other country that has it like half year instead of quarterly, because quarterly puts a big burden on all the businesses. But you gotta wait for Congress, so good luck.
Honestly, regardless of what happens at that level, I feel like it's the habit piece, right? So
Yeah.
I like getting into you're an S corp, maybe you're new to being an S corp and you have to understand payroll. Okay, so let's just break down the simplicity of it in the tax world side of it is we're trying to make sure that our salary is right, but the taxes we're paying in as much as we can bear. There's going
Mhm.
to be a criteria that the tax professional will help us with on that, but how much will be paid in that bucket? Now, if you're used to paying an estimate on a quarterly basis and that feels like a big chunk, what if we divided it by three and just broke it
Right.
down for that
Put it
quarter?
away. You start
Yeah,
that little account and just get it out of the
pulled it
operating so
out.
it's out of sight, out of mind. But
Exactly.
that way it's there. It doesn't hurt as much when you pull that out to pay it when you've
Yeah,
pulled it out monthly. I
yeah.
I think. I mean, it might just be a
To me,
psychological
it's monthly,
thing.
but
Yeah.
I've met people. I love this. I've met a couple people that are okay. I charge on my credit card, but I have a way to pay it every week. Not every credit card
Mhm.
offers that. It's
Yeah.
not that they're paying it off in full. It's the habit for
Mhm.
them to pay it every week because they've already spent the money. So
Yeah.
they want it out of their bank account. It's the way you manage funds. And that's the hardest rub, I think, in all of this is the
Because a lot of
timing of
times
money.
their heads down and
Yeah.
they are working doing their legal work, and this is
Yeah.
not something that they really, you kind of, I find with most of the attorneys we work with, they love what they do and they're really good at it. They live in this high verbal world, and when you start talking about numbers, it's scary. They
It
don't
is.
have that, not that they don't have the knowledge of it, but they really don't like it because it's
Yeah.
kind of like us, right? So it's kind of like the opposite. And I think that that's part of like taking the time to do it, and that time has to be non-negotiable. You can't book into that time. You make that time, set it aside to set those goals and to
Mhm.
review your stuff, and then you don't cover that over as it gets closer, like that's the only time you have for a client or something, and you break that rule. You want to really dedicate that time and preserve it because it's for yourself.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
lot easier to fix something, right the ship, so to speak, in like at the quarter than to have it go all the way to the end of the year and you see something that you didn't really expect or want to be that way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's a lot harder to. I mean, you can take things at very high level if you're looking at your records. So maybe you're looking at you're doing billable expenses and billable income, knowing full well the IRS would rather see it as advanced client cost because it really doesn't affect your numbers. You're paying for it for a client mini loan and you're getting it back when you bill. So maybe a better way to do that is to start to make that transition. Now that's a transition. You really want somebody, a professional, helping you transition that way,
Yeah.
but you might want to change that. You might want to change the way you bill your clients.
Yeah.
Maybe you're tired of chasing it and you got a lot of AR and you're getting paid after the fact and maybe you don't collect a lot of retainers and maybe you want to change to a subscription billing or a fixed fee billing or
Well,
anything different and start to implement it. Maybe do an implementation in a small part of your business. Don't
what
do
if
it for
you
everything.
look at the value of your time? What if this, Linda, you look at the value of your time and let's say you're a solopreneur.
Mhm.
Should you be the one collecting on those invoices as well as billing for them and doing all the work?
That's why it stays uncollected. Nobody wants to be that bad guy calling up for money that you earned, like that
Yeah.
you should be
Yeah.
paid for. And we see
Yeah.
it all the time. And the
Yeah.
clients will say to us, "Oh, that's never going to get collected. Write it off." And my heart breaks because you did the work and now you're
Hmm.
not getting compensated for it. And all you have to do is some realization numbers, and then you're going to realize that it's your hourly rate is not what you think it is if you're writing down a lot of that stuff.
Well, there's ways to do it differently too. It's like you and I when we chat and we look at someone's set of books and we look at the structure, whether
Hmm.
you're solo or a large firm, how many hands are in the pot, how many people are doing things, where's the
Yeah.
redundancy, and we try not to reduce someone's job, but we
Hmm.
try, there might be value in the role that someone's playing in your
Shifting.
business that is
Hmm.
somewhere else.
Yep.
And they're just caught in this hamster wheel and it's reevaluating that. So that's why I think what we're both saying is when you're looking at the whole piece, okay, the piece it's easiest is either start with writing a budget and or forecasting the numbers. Those I'd say forecasting the numbers first because I feel like that you can back into the rest of it. If you
Hmm.
understood where to forecast to, maybe you
Yeah.
will understand what the dollar would go to, right? The
Yep.
excitement around it is exciting. It's a snowball
Yeah,
moment.
forecasting's way more fun than budgeting.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
I can remember having
Yeah.
very little money to go food shopping, and that's where I liken
Yeah.
back to those days where I had the calculators. I put things in the carriage. That sounds like budgeting, and I didn't like to do it and
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
take stuff out because I knew it was going to go over. And you
Yeah.
know,
Well, and you start there, right? Like to your point, you
hmm.
it takes stuff out if you need to,
Yeah.
if you're too much, right? But then once you start there, then you can move into the other areas. I'd say for us, like Linda and I, just our own experience, we'll look at things and we'll look at software. It's easy for us to try a bunch of things because why are we going to talk about it unless we've tried it? And
Hmm.
once we try it, and then before you know it, it's like, oh, that we had no intention of that continuing, or that's not being utilized any longer because
Yeah, we
X, Y,
had
and
some of
Z is
those.
doing it. And
We
we've
had
had a
some of
few of
those,
those.
but
Yeah,
they
yeah,
seemed good. But sometimes
yeah,
you start with some software and they seem great, and then nothing happens with it afterwards. It doesn't evolve,
yep,
and then it's not fitting, and then there's something else better out there.
yeah,
But and you could be sitting, and as you grow as a business, as you get more and more people working for you, that's a lot of licenses that you're paying for that maybe everybody didn't stop using it, and you don't even know it. We've seen that with law firms where they're
totally.
paying for software, and then when they did a roll call to find out who's actually using this software, paying for 50 seats and four people are using it. That's a very expensive software mistake.
That was a heart-wrenching moment for
That was
sure.
horrible. I
That was
know.
a real moment. That's
Yes.
not some made-up thing that Linda just shared.
No,
The
that was a
other
true story.
true story. The other thing I think, Linda, what do you think about this is when you're looking at like hybrid model of ideas
Mhm.
of like the offering. We talked about employees, so firms that are offering things. The 401k, what is the adoption? Is everyone doing it or are they kind
Yeah.
of forced into it? And then your bonus structure or your time off policy, does that work? Is it
Hmm.
actually working? A lot of people set it and forget it. Admittedly, it's easier to do
Oh
that.
yeah, for sure. It's
But
easier to do that.
the more engagement it's and also like for us internally I
Hmm.
mean one big thing that Linda and I were like okay we've done our all hands or team meeting for however long at a certain time, does this actually work, what needs to change, open to trying something different, moving it around, taking evaluation, let's see what happens, let's see what
Hmm.
the reward is on that, maybe we have to shift it again, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah,
people
and
want to do.
we're going to test it out, but it's funny because a lot of times if it's coming from you and I and we're asking the
Exactly.
questions, we're not going to get the honest answer where it could be somebody
Yeah.
else in the firm that asked the questions, but
Yeah.
also, we just hired somebody new who's great. And I wanted to hear her opinion because she's only been to maybe 5 meetings.
Yeah.
What does she feel about it and how does she see it?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to hear her take on it because she's not been in it for all these days and just to see what she thought and have a little discussion about it because I think it
Yeah.
seemed like it was it worked out pretty well. I think we got a good take on it coming from somebody who's just boldly honest, you
Yeah.
know?
Brand new.
Hmm.
It's interesting too. When you look at ways to tax plan and look ahead, you have to look in the rears to help you plan ahead. And then a lot of people say, well, that's a lot, like I'll never have a year like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that's where the quarterly or the monthly evolution or change.
Yep.
And I mean, in full service, it's hard for us as the accounting professional to work with you, and you're designing a whole bunch of other things with other people, like a financial planner and or,
A
your tax
coach.
professional or a coach. And then it's like dropping a bomb on us. We have to
Hmm.
shift. So I believe the strongest effort that you're going to have, the smallest change that you can make is the level of engagement that we have. So if the engagement is, we're not really technically meeting maybe as often as you need. Well, let's reevaluate that, change our pricing structure to have more intentional meetings. To your point, Linda, maybe that's your accountability partner right there.
And I think
Is that?
sometimes too, we get clients that are all gun ho in the beginning. They show up and they're like, they didn't like their last accounting firm and they're coming to
Yeah.
us and they
Yeah.
want to have it better. And as you set them up and start going, they're all excited and then that all wanes off and they miss the meetings, they don't show up and they're
Hmm.
not, and then come to find out the real issue with the last accounting firm was you, that you didn't participate. And
Yeah.
then it falls on us to figure out how do we make that more mutual. I mean, because they get busy, not
Yeah.
intentional because
Not
they want to be
intentional.
there,
Yeah.
but they're busy and
Yeah.
they have work to do. And how can you fix that to help them? Just do a Loom video of what you would have said in front of them, and they can't interact and ask questions, but you open the door to maybe they have
Yeah.
some questions on what they have. And at least it shows you care. So you didn't come to the meeting. I'm just going to run through this financial statements with you without you, but for you,
Hmm.
and then and kind of discuss what you see.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes just that is helpful for the client to see that we do care about it. We do want you to do well.
Yeah.
And sometimes we see things and it's like, we really need to discuss this. Like,
Yeah.
it can be
Yeah.
something as simple as we notice you aren't paying for XYZ insurance that you really should have. You're missing this.
Yeah.
Or any little thing. It could be anything. You didn't pay the estimated. We noticed that you didn't pay the estimated taxes. Was that a decision you made with your tax professional? Or did you just forget? I mean, it's not the end of the world. You can still do it. But you want to show that you care, that you've actually noticed. Because sometimes we
Yeah.
get our head down too, which is hard. But we want to help them. And there's things that have changed this year there's not a lot of changes, thankfully, for tax purposes, but we do have the staff meals kind of going away that we were getting the 100% of that. We're not getting
Oh
that
yeah,
anymore. Yeah,
well,
something
meals
changes.
in general have shifted in
Yeah,
frequency.
and it's something new. So you should discuss with your tax professional, like
Yes.
what's changed this year?
Yeah. Yeah.
What should I be looking for?
Well,
How
and
should I be booking it
equipment.
in? Because you don't want to be booking in, for
Yeah.
example, we had it happen with a client booking in a bunch of entertainment. And that is not deductible. So yeah,
Hmm.
you're paying for it with business funds, but know that it's not deductible. And then what we have our staff do is we are entertainment dash not deductible. It's written right there. They have to see it every time we produce the financials. So there's not a question of it at the end of the year when we rip it off and they look at their end of the year numbers as they're getting their taxes done and they're like, why is this so different than yours? And it's going to be different. It's not going to match identically because there's depreciation and other little tweaks the tax professional makes. But if you have 50,000 inside of entertainment expense and that gets pulled off of your numbers, you're going to have a vastly different looking profit and loss
Yeah.
that you're paying taxes on. And that's something you need to be aware of
Yeah.
when these things come down the road. And and then
Yeah.
also distributions. You should be looking at what you pull out of the business.
The
know
other
what it is.
the other thing too, I do feel strongly like you're saying these numbers and understanding them. But the other
Hmm.
thing too is like you also what are the rules that have changed within your jurisdiction?
Hmm.
We're in the legal profession,
Right.
the compliance. We all know California has shifted drastically. What does this next shift look like? Are you compliant? I'm always amazed at when people come to us and I was like, well, do you have your tax like you're doing business in this state, but
Hmm.
you're also doing business in another state, and I don't see a trust account for that.
Yeah.
Does the bar rules mandate that? What kind of structure is that? It's looking at through this lens of reevaluating. I'm honestly amazed that that is still something that doesn't get discussed. It's sort of like, well, I kind of looked into it. How many years ago?
Yeah.
Like it's the same. So we have the same, you have the same kind of due diligence on our side that we do as professionals that you do in your own profession. And I think what you're saying, Linda, is you're thinking about all these things and you have all these old ideas of what they might have been based on older rules. And because
Hmm.
rules change, like
Things
any
change. Yeah.
profession, it's a good time to sort of come back together and ask the question. Now, of course, I feel like we're getting a plethora since the bill has been signed last year. There's a plethora of stuff coming out there and all the noise and all the conversations and how to unwind it.
Yeah.
Your personal individual piece of that is so different. And that's where that tax person is going to help you the most.
They're invaluable, but don't ask
Yeah.
them to answer all your questions on March 15th or April 15th or 17th, I
Yeah.
think, this year.
Yeah.
Don't ask them those questions and then get mad because they don't have time to answer because
Yeah.
they have to be aware of the deadline with all their
Yeah.
clients. It's tough. It's really
It's tough.
tough.
Yeah, and also looking at the rules, I feel like some people we meet with, they have an office and then well, we don't really want to have the office anymore. People are moving around or we want to go to hybrid. What does that look like?
Yeah.
How does that affect you? Do you have payroll? What type of payroll do you have? Do you have health benefits? Health benefits right now, as we all know, it's been in the news, it's all over the place. It's very costly.
High.
What
Yeah,
does
it's
it
high
look like?
prices. Yeah.
So those are good conversations to have. And I feel like this is definitely labeled as tax planning. I do feel like this is more about business planning. This is more about
Yes.
really looking at what your business is doing. And it always impacts you personally. It's
Yeah.
gonna they're gonna be hand in hand, or what you do personally impacts your business. To say that they're separate is not always true. It
Well, we
depends on the
always
structure.
say when we talk to clients, like, what are your,
Yeah.
we don't go right to what are your business goals? Like, what are your personal goals? We'll start
Yes.
there and then we kind of back into the business goals because they go hand in hand.
Yeah, they
So,
go hand in hand. Yeah. Well, and one thing we had in kind of in our journey is we had someone recently ask us, what is our 3 year goal? You
yeah,
always hear people talk about 5 year, 1 year.
yeah,
Okay, well, okay, 3 years actually. Okay, one, two, three. What could we do? And first thing she and I did was, what did we do the last three?
yeah,
And we thought between not just financial, but also like, what have we physically done in the business? And all right, now we're kind of getting into a different area, a plateau, I guess you could say, of a positive new way. So what does that look like? And maybe just those questions and writing those down for yourself,
yeah. And actually writing them, like not
writing them.
typing them, handwrite them because there's a
Yeah,
lot of with the brain and handwriting, it helps you connect in kind
yeah.
of a different way. And I think that's important too.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things in planning in general. Maybe Steve can offer
Yeah.
another segment of this and we can find out what his thoughts are too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Good
this was good.
topic.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm assuming it's going to populate like soon. But
Yeah.
also one other thing,
Yeah.
1099s, it's
Oh,
something
yes.
to deal with. So don't forget about them. We're still under the $600 rule. Next year is going to be the happy year where it's going to go up. But this year is $600. It's still the nightmare of figuring out who gets a 1099. Start now. You should have started last year.
Yeah.
Plan for this. Even though the threshold's changing, really plan for it next year too. Same thing because it makes for life to be so much happier because the time frame is so fast. And even when you're looking at a 3 year goal, it sounds like a long time, but let me tell you, the older you get, it zips by. So,
Well, maybe we can have another guest on that really talks about this segment because we've received, as we do every year, a new set of questions that I'm like, are you kidding? Great questions, but no, no, no. We're not changing the ship right now.
Yes, don't change everything.
Yeah.
Start small, one
Start
thing.
small.
Don't go crazy and say, I'm going
Yeah.
to change my billing. I'm going to change my way I do my client costs. I'm going to change my entity structure. Don't do that. Pick one
Talk,
and
talk,
go for it.
talk it through first. Don't
Mhm.
dive in and then
Yeah,
find out how it
definitely
feels
talk to
the
your
other end of
professionals
it.
for sure.
If you liked what you heard today, don't forget to like, share, and leave a quick review. It's the easiest way to help other accountants and lawyers discover our little corner of the podcast world. And while you're at it, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Do you have a question or a topic that you'd love us to cover? Drop us a line at info@accountantslawpod.com or send us a message through our website, accountantslawpod.com. And if you'd like to go beyond listening, please consider sponsoring an episode to connect with our community of accounting and legal professionals who love learning, laughing, and leveling up. And don't forget to join the conversation inside the Accountants Law Lab Mastermind group at accountantslawlab.com, where collaboration meets inspiration every Friday.
Cool.
I love how
Thank-
she does that.
It's always a surprise too. It's like
I know.
I
I always
listen.
listen because it's
Yeah.
different.
Like, what's she gonna say now?
We'll
Surprise.
see you all next week, everybody.
Yeah. Bye
Bye.
bye.